All right, let's get right into it. The U.S.-Israel relationship. It's one of those things in modern politics that's just incredibly durable, right? And also incredibly debated. It's a bond that has pretty much shaped global politics for decades. So the big question is, how did it get this strong? And that really is the question, isn't it? You see it all the time. Even when U.S. and Israeli policies don't quite line up, the support from the U.S. just seems, well, unwavering, almost unconditional. So what's the glue holding this all together so tightly? Well, as it turns out, it's not just one simple answer. The power behind this special relationship isn't just one thing. It's more like a really sturdy stool built on three strong, interconnected legs. You've got strategic interests, you've got the sense of shared history and values, and then there is the incredibly powerful domestic political machine. So let's dig into each of these pillars, one by one. Okay, first up, let's talk about the most practical, nuts and bolts reason, the strategic alliance. I mean, for decades now, U.S. policymakers have looked at the map and seen Israel as an absolutely vital piece of the puzzle. Think about it, from a purely strategic point of view. The Middle East is, well, it's a volatile region. And in the middle of all that, Israel is seen as this stable, pro-Western anchor, a reliable partner who can also act as a really important counterbalance to U.S. adversaries in the region, especially Iran.
And look, this isn't just some abstract idea. We're talking about real commitment written in dollars and cents. A lot of dollars and cents. Back in 2016, the U.S. locked in a 10-year deal to give Israel $38 billion in military aid. That's a huge investment, and it really shows you just how deep this strategic partnership runs.
But here's the thing you have to understand. It's not a one-way street. It's not just about the U.S. giving aid. While America provides the funding and some incredible hardware, it gets a lot back. We're talking access to some of the most advanced military tech on the planet, innovations that have been tested in real-world scenarios, and maybe most importantly, top-tier intelligence on what's happening in the region.
So that's the hard strategy part. But this alliance goes way deeper than just military hardware and intelligence. The second pillar is all about the emotional and, you could say, moral side of things, this powerful sense of a shared identity.
You've probably heard this phrase a million times, the only democracy in the Middle East. And honestly, that's a huge part of the bond. The idea is that both countries are built on shared values. You know, the rule of law, free elections. It creates this natural bond, especially when you look around the neighborhood and see so many authoritarian states.
And you really have to look at the history to get the full picture. I mean, coming out of the 1940s, the absolute horror of the Holocaust created this deep moral sense of duty in the West to support a safe homeland for the Jewish people. And then, boom, 1948, Israel declares its independence, and the United States recognizes it literally minutes later. That forged a connection right at the very beginning that still echoes today.
And layered on top of that history is a cultural connection, this idea of a shared Judeo-Christian heritage. For millions and millions of Americans, that's a really powerful concept. It creates this feeling of family, a kind of kinship that's about more than just politics or strategy.
Okay, so that brings us to our third and final pillar. And this one, well, you could argue it's the most powerful of all. It's definitely the most debated. We're talking about the incredibly effective political engine inside the U.S. that keeps this alliance running at full steam.
Right, so in Washington, D.C., organized lobbying is a huge piece of this puzzle. You have very powerful and very well-organized groups, like AIPAC, for instance. Their whole mission is to build support for Israel across the political aisle, get voters energized, and basically make sure the political conversation stays firmly in a pro-Israel lane. And it's not just about lobbying in D.C. This support is anchored by some really significant groups of voters. You have Jewish Americans, who are a very politically active and influential community, especially in key states, but then you have an even larger block, evangelical Christians. For many of them, supporting Israel isn't just political, it's theological. It's seen as fulfilling biblical prophecy. So think about it. You've got powerful lobbying groups, and you've got these major voter blocks all pushing in the same direction. What that creates is a political reality where if you're a politician with national ambitions, openly criticizing Israeli policy becomes, well, politically very risky. And that, right there, sets the terms of the debate in Washington. All right, so let's tie this all together. We have the strategic pillar, the historical and moral pillar, and the domestic politics pillar. How do those three things combine to create the support that, from the outside, looks pretty much unconditional?
Well, there's this key idea in diplomacy here called the no daylight policy. The thinking goes like this. If the U.S. shows absolute, total public solidarity with Israel, no daylight between their positions, it builds up the trust needed to have the really tough, influential conversations behind closed doors. The fear is that public criticism just backfires and makes Israel less likely to listen.
So, if you're looking at this from inside the U.S. government, the logic is pretty clear. Step 1. A stable Israel is a vital strategic asset. Step 2. Showing unwavering support helps deter attacks from Israel's enemies. Step 3. That no daylight public unity gives you leverage in private. And Step 4. The whole political system in D.C. is just so deeply wired to be pro-Israel that changing course is incredibly hard. And that's really the heart of it. This incredibly strong, decades-long alliance isn't about just one thing. It's what happens when you get this powerful, almost perfect alignment of practical, strategic interests, deep historical and moral values, and a super effective domestic political machine, all pointing in the exact same direction.
So that's where we'll leave it. When you have every major force, strategic, cultural, political, all pushing together, it creates a bond that is just unbelievably resilient. And it leaves you with a huge question for the future. What on earth could possibly be big enough to ever shift an alliance this strong?